Hi everyone, Ant-Man here. Yeah, I know, I don't look like a superhero. That was a long time ago. Now I've retired to the private sector. Hey, follow me. Now I run Ant-Man Catering. Hey, when you have to feed a ton of not too choosy eaters in a hurry, who better to turn to than ants? I can provide you with a very nourishing carcass, some rotten fruits and vegetables, or even a combination platter of both if that's your thing. Your friends and family will devour it so fast you'll think they ever heard of, So the next time you're planning a party, be sure to call Ant-Man Catering.
Enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, the Last Angry Geek. Well, there's some heroes that are just jokes. Aquaman, Robin, and yes, Ant-Man. He's got the strength of a human. Well, many years ago it was announced that Ant-Man was getting a movie headed by Hot Fuzz auteur Edgar Wright. Then the Marvel Cinematic Universe exploded onto the screens, but still the Ant-Man movie was trudging along. Then finally the movie was announced for production and, for reasons unknown, Edgar Wright quit. Well, there is still an Ant-Man movie coming out this year, but if you think his cinematic journey was confusing, wait till you hear about his comic book history.
The history of Ant-Man is a long and strange one. Original Avengers founder Hank Pym discovered not only Pym particles, which when used could grow or shrink a person, but developed gear that let him take control over local insects. When his daughter was in trouble, Scott Lang became the new Ant-Man in order to save her life. He was killed while acting as a member of the Avengers. Hank invented a new suit, but it was stolen by an on-the-lam S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Eric O'Grady. He had limited success, finally dying and being replaced by a robot clone in Secret Avengers. Cassie, in the meantime, had followed in her dad's footsteps with the Young Avengers as Stature. During the events of the Children's Crusade, the Young Avengers traveled back in time and brought Scott to the present, but he had to watch his daughter die in a battle against Dr. Doom. He then threw himself into his superhero work, leading a backup team of the Fantastic Four, the FF.
Recently in Access, Marvel's latest event, don't worry kids, there'll be another one along any minute now, Dr. Doom had his internal morality reset to good. He decided to undo his greatest sin, Cassie's death. So in Avengers AI number 10, Dr. Doom brought Cassie back to life, who found herself at her father's doorstep. Ant-Man number 1 follows Scott Lang's life shortly after that moment.
The issue opens with us following Scott as he's breaking into a building. He admits the Ant-Man legacy doesn't earn a whole lot of respect given the mixed history of himself and previous Ant-Men. He passes a guard and then rides a flying ant through a laser field. There are over 1 million ants to every person on Earth, so he's always got an instant army at his beck and call. He's breaking into a rich man's apartment, a rich Iron Man's apartment. We flash back to earlier in the day, Scott in full Ant-Man gear is being interviewed for a job. After tripping over his words and handing in a double-sided resume, he admits that, yes, he has been convicted of a felony.
Now, Mr. Geek, before we let you onto the internet, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Yes.
A felony?
Yes.
Obstruction of justice?
Yes.
Mail fraud?
Yes.
Kidnapping?
Yes.
Burglary?
Yes.
Perjury?
Yes.
Manslaughter?
Well, only some comic book editors.
Well, that's a relief. Welcome to the internet.
Thanks, what's it pay?
Next to nothing. He goes into his backstory. He was a world-class thief who stole to support himself and his wife. When he went to jail, she took their daughter Cassie away. He got out and vowed to go straight until Cassie developed a heart condition. He found a doctor who could help her and stole the Ant-Man suit to break into the research facility where she was working. The man running the facility had turned into a monster and Scott defeated him. The doctor saved Cassie's life, and Hank Pym granted him the Ant-Man identity. Since then, he served with the Avengers and Fantastic Four, but nothing that ever really stuck. The interview was then interrupted by Tony Stark. Scott is there to interview for the job of Head of Security Solutions, whatever that is. But the interview is just for show. Tony's already picked his finalists, and Scott is not one of them. Not when he squandered every opportunity ever afforded to him.
When your life choices don't hold up against the alcoholic weapons manufacturer who split the superhero community into a civil war that got Captain America killed, then it's time to reevaluate your life.
Scott has to beg a little, but Tony breaks down and lets him apply with the other finalists. He then heads over to Cassie's school for some much-needed hero worship. They walk home, and she gets into a discussion about Battle Royale being better than the Hunger Games. He bought her tickets to a screening, but it's kiboshed by his ex-wife Peggy. He wants Cassie to spend weekends with him, but Peggy has custody. He only has visitation and doesn't have a very big apartment. When he suggests just shrinking her down, Peggy goes nuts. She will not have their daughter in the superhero life again. And he should be getting a job with Stark. That will follow him home. Peggy promises she won't let him put Cassie in danger. Back at his crappy apartment, Scott has neither food nor furniture, having spent all his money on a new costume to secure the job. He flies out on another ant and heads to the finalist interviews. He meets teen heroes Prodigy, former mutant, and Victor La Mancha, former runaway and the son of Ultron. No, really. Also, the female Beetle from Superior Foes of Spider-Man, though she claims to have reformed. Tony arrives and sets them through a danger-filled obstacle course before trying to hack an ancient computer. If they can hack it, he'll know they have what it takes to crack Stark's security or any other security systems. The other three have no idea what to do, so Scott shrinks his stomach to force himself to puke, claiming to be sick. Tony decides to reschedule for tomorrow, and we return to the present, where he's attempting to hack the Iron Man helmet to retrieve the password, only to find Iron Man and Beetle kissing.
Wow. Tony Stark letting his libido override his good judgment and sense of fairness. I'm shocked.
He avoids flying underwear and finishes his hack job, only for his meter to read, "Congratulations!" and the door to Tony's apartment swings open to the sound of clapping. Tony's there, and Scott asks him not to press charges for breaking and entering, but Scott's got it all wrong. He's won! There was no way to actually hack the computer. Tony wanted someone to think outside the box and do whatever it would take to get the job. Since Tony's living on the West Coast now, this will be Scott's apartment, except maybe not because the Beetle wasn't after the job. She only wanted to get close enough to Tony to kill him. She pulls a gun and Scott reacts. He shrinks into the barrel, pulls on some wires, causing it to jam. Because, guns have wires. This gives Iron Man enough time to suit up and fly after the Beetle. He goes to tell Cassie the good news, only to find Peggy is packing things up. Cassie's in Miami with Peggy's sister. She's decided to take drastic measures and move them away from New York's superhero culture. Peggy admits she knows Scott is trying his best to be a good father, but this is for their daughter's sake. But Scott's not willing to let go of his little girl, the one person in the world who sees him as a real hero. At the press conference to announce the new head of security, Stark is on the phone with his people. He's furious because the man he's hired isn't there. Ant-Man is instead stowed away in a bag aboard an airplane. He grew up in Miami, so this is a bit of a homecoming. He stops at a toy store to buy doll furniture and uses it as a temporary apartment for him and Cassie. Watching Battle Royale on his phone, Cassie wonders when he's going to tell her mom that he's not just visiting Miami, but that's a conversation that can wait for another day. Scott admits he may not have been a good husband or a memorable superhero, but if he can be a good father, he'll call it a win.
Ah, that's sweet. Maybe a bit pathetic with a touch of OCD or at the very least stalking thrown in, but still sweet. So that's Ant-Man issue number 1. Is it going to be a big hit or an itty-bitty failure? Let's take a closer look.
Well, first off, this book reminds me a lot of Matt Fraction's nearly completed Hawkeye series, in a good way. Both feature a hero trying his best, but at the same time blindly feeling his way through difficult situations. There's a young Avenger that each mentors, although in Scott's case it's further complicated by the fact that that child is his daughter, and it has both heroes in low-key situations instead of taking on alien invasions or evil robots. In fact, if you throw Miss Marvel into this mix, I'd say right now some of Marvel's best titles are heroes just doing what they can to make things better on the street. And yes, that means I like this book. The art is fantastic. It's got that flat style that I like so much in Chris Sprouse and Rebecca Isaac's art. Ramon Rosales has a similar style but manages to make everyone look unique. His costume work for Ant-Man makes the costume look authentic, but also rooted in the real world. It doesn't look like spandex and space-age materials, but leather and vinyl. His prop work and scenery is also very nice. The book's writer, Nick Spencer, coming off both Superior Foes of Spider-Man and Avengers World, has written a strong first issue that sets up the series on its proper direction. Scott and his family are moving to Miami, and, against all odds, he's going to become an honest success after a history of half-assing it. Spencer also keeps that sense of humor and snappy dialogue he was known for in Superior Foes. As for the characters, look, I'm going to be honest, I hate Peggy. I hated her in Avengers when she showed up out of nowhere and took Cassie away from Scott. I hated her in Young Avengers when she and her new cop husband, who by the way I completely assumed left her before this book began because she's so horrible, tried to keep Cassie out of the superhero life, and I hate her now. This character is the ultimate wet blanket, but just because I don't like her doesn't mean she's not working for the book. Someone has to be the voice of responsibility, even if she's very, very annoying while doing it. Cassie's written well enough and drawn to look like an ordinary teenage girl, although her recent resurrection and Young Avengers status are completely glossed over. Although I've heard that Spencer plans to have the Young Avengers guest star at some point, so we will be touching on it. And as for our hero, Scott Lang, let's just say the previous Ant-Man book was called Irredeemable Ant-Man and featured a guy who stole the Ant-Man outfit off of his dead best friend and then proceeded to knock up said dead friend's girlfriend. So Scott's a little ahead of the curve. Actually, at FF, I thought it showed that Scott had grown into a true leader, and he even managed to defeat Dr. Doom and avenge his daughter, but where's the fun in showing the adventures of a competent superhero? I guess I'm saying that Spencer is writing Scott as more of a loser than he's been in recent comics, but so far I'm enjoying the ride. Scott Lang is capable of doing great things, but he's his own worst enemy. His lack of ambition and hubris keep him from achieving his full potential. He needs the threat of his daughter being taken away from him to motivate him to finally become the hero and father that he knows he can be.
So can Scott Lang make it as a hero and provide a stable life for his daughter? Well, probably not, but that's where half the fun is. Watching him try, then fail, then try again. This book may not have a lot of big-name creators or a ton of publicity behind it, but it is a lot of fun. I give Ant-Man #1 4 stars out of 5. Until next time, folks, this is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, The Last Angry Geek.